On January 7th, the President-elect of the United States, Donald Trump, reaffirmed his interest in expanding the territorial boundaries of his country by purchasing Greenland, which currently belongs to Denmark. This intention had already been announced by Trump in the past, during his first term as president, arguing that acquiring this territory would be vital to securing the United States' future sovereignty due to the island's strategic location between North America and Europe. It would also serve as a support point for North Atlantic trade routes and a defense line against the growing presence of Russia and China in the Arctic. However, Trump's statement gained global attention and was met with strong negativity by the Danish government, which vehemently rejects the idea of selling Greenland. If Trump were to pursue this intention during his term, it could create diplomatic friction between Washington and Copenhagen. Beyond its geographical significance, Greenland is an extremely resource-rich territory, one of the few remaining regions in the world with untapped resources. In this video, we'll explore why the United States is so keen on buying Greenland and how this could impact the global dynamics of power and influence. First, it is worth mentioning that the United States' desire to acquire Greenland is not as recent as it might seem, as the American government had already sent purchase proposals to Denmark in the past. To better understand this situation, we need to delve into Greenland's history and unravel the geopolitical complexities surrounding this island of just 57,000 inhabitants, whose administrative capital, Nuuk, is geographically closer to New York in the United States than to Copenhagen, Denmark's capital. One key fact to consider is the long-standing political and cultural relationship between Danes and Greenlanders, which dates back to the 16th century when Denmark was still part of the Kalmar Union with Norway, forming a single nation. At that time, Greenland had been explored, but the island's distance and harsh climate resulted in its isolation until the 18th century, when Denmark began consolidating its local presence as Greenland's economy developed through the fur trade and whaling. After the dissolution of the union with Norway in 1814 with the Treaty of Kiel, ending the alliance between the two nations, Denmark became independent but retained full sovereignty and control over its overseas colonies, including Greenland, Iceland, and the Faroe Islands in the North Atlantic. However, the Danish administration did not translate into significant benefits for Greenlanders. Politically and economically isolated throughout the 19th century, Greenland faced delays in economic development and limited opportunities to participate in international trade. Denmark restricted Greenland's trade with other countries, favoring resource exploitation while preserving local identity to prevent foreign influence that might lead to independence movements. Nonetheless, Greenland's remote and inhospitable nature contributed to its gradual isolation over the centuries. The island's considerable distance of 3,000 kilometers from Denmark discouraged greater ambitions by the Danish government in the region. However, Greenland's isolation began to change in the early 20th century when Denmark was invaded by Germany in 1940 during World War II. This event severed Greenland's connection to Danish administration, forcing the island into self-management and distancing it further from Europe as the continent fell under German control. Simultaneously, Greenland's strategic location between Europe and North America brought the island closer to the United States, resulting in American protection of Greenland. This led to the construction of critical military, naval, and air bases on the island in 1941. Greenland subsequently became a strategic focal point for navigation and naval and air surveillance in the North Atlantic, providing logistical support for American operations and acting as a barrier against German incursions. Even after Greenland was formally reintegrated into the Kingdom of Denmark following the war, relinquishing its colonial status, the island continued to gain international prominence, particularly regarding U.S. strategic interest in the region. American military bases, such as Thule Air Base, built in the 1940s, remained operational during the Cold War. Greenland became a vital tool for deterrence and surveillance against the Soviet Union in the Arctic, offering refueling stations for aircraft and ships and supporting military operations in the region. This importance led U.S. President Harry Truman to offer $100 million in gold to purchase the territory from Denmark after World War II, but the proposal was rejected by the European nation. This raises the question, why are the United States so determined to acquire Greenland? Based on the analyzed facts, it is evident that the US government's efforts to purchase Greenland are not recent. President Truman was not the first to express interest in acquiring the island. US interest in purchasing Greenland dates back to the 19th century when President Andrew Johnson considered buying the island after acquiring Alaska in 1867. More recently, this desire was reignited twice by Donald Trump. The first instance occurred during his first term as US President in 2019, when he expressed interest in acquiring Greenland, describing it as a great real estate acquisition. The island's addition of over 2 million square kilometers to US territory and its hosting of key American military assets since World War II, such as air bases and missile warning radar systems, make Greenland a cornerstone for US national defense and power projection in the North Atlantic. This is particularly significant in the context of intensified global competition due to the increasing presence of global powers like Russia and China expanding their influence in the Arctic. In this context, Greenland's strategic location in the Arctic would grant the United States a critical geopolitical advantage, especially with the melting polar ice caps opening new maritime routes in the region. These routes could drastically reduce trade and transit distances between continents. For example, a conventional shipping route between Shanghai, China, and Rotterdam, the Netherlands, takes approximately 48 days via the Strait of Malacca and the Suez Canal. In the Arctic, this distance decreases by 27%, potentially cutting 6,000 kilometers between the two ports. For China, ensuring superiority in the Arctic means reducing dependence on the Strait of Malacca, a strategic maritime route highly vulnerable to blockades and geopolitical disputes. It would also allow the country to save billions of dollars in shipping costs over the coming decades. Unsurprisingly, China has initiated Arctic-related projects such as the Arctic Polar Silk Road, a complement to the trillion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative aimed at providing global infrastructure to create a trade belt connecting markets worldwide. This is similar to what Russia is already accomplishing with its Northern Sea Route, which carried 34 million tons of cargo in 2023. Given the Arctic's strategic potential and the region's transformation into an economic advantage as the ice melts, militarization has grown in recent years. Like the Panama Canal, the Arctic holds enormous economic significance as a potential choke point. Russia, for example, maintains a significant military presence in the region with numerous bases and a constant flow of ships, including the world's largest fleet of icebreakers. Unlike Russia and China, however, the Arctic is one of the few regions where the United States lacks naval superiority, a growing concern for American authorities in the face of expansionist influences. Therefore, the United States' increasingly assertive stance on the Arctic and its interest in securing a privileged position in the region, through acquiring Greenland for instance, comes as no surprise. Greenland could serve as a surveillance and monitoring hub, justifying the relocation of American military assets to the island for national defense and deterring foreign interventions. In addition to its strategic location, Greenland is the largest island in the world, with 80% of its territory covered by ice. The island is rich in untapped natural resources such as iron, zinc, copper, uranium, and rare earth elements essential for modern technologies, from household goods like computers and smartphones to the military and energy industries. Rare earth elements are unique components necessary for manufacturing critical parts, with China dominating about 60% of global rare earth production. Moreover, Greenland lies within a region that houses up to 13% of the world's undiscovered oil reserves and 30% of untapped natural gas reserves, positioning it as a bridge to future resource access. Given this strategic potential, it is unsurprising that Trump reiterated his desire to purchase Greenland during a press conference in December 2024, calling it an absolute necessity for the United States. Trump even suggested the possibility of using military or economic means to acquire Greenland or the Panama Canal, arguing that these two locations are vital to US economic security. However, the idea faces strong resistance from Denmark, which maintains that the territory is not for sale and the economic, political, and diplomatic costs render such a purchase unfeasible in the short term. In conclusion, Greenland has evolved from being a remote and isolated territory to becoming a vital asset in the global Arctic race. This transformation underscores the heightened interest of the United States in acquiring the island, illustrating how the Arctic has become a stage for global disputes amid intensifying international competition. Greenland represents the key to the United States' balance of power in the region, with the potential to become one of the most critical areas of the future. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you can, drop a comment below with the next topic you'd like to see on the channel. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thanks again for your support, and see you in the next video.